Hey, what is up everyone? So Sea of Thieves Season 15 just released, and in this video I want to go over my thoughts on the update, everything I loved and hated about the update. Right off the bat though, we should be clear that not all of the stuff that's supposed to be in Season 15 is released at the start. This season they're releasing it over the few months that we have for Season 15, so that's something to keep in mind. This isn't everything we're going to get for Season 15. I know there was some confusion with that in terms of some of like the hunting voyages and other stuff that's supposed to be coming later on. I'll also say right at the start of this video, I'm kind of neutral on this season. I don't think it's terrible, but I also don't think it's great. And we're going to get into my thoughts and why I kind of come to that conclusion. If you saw my video from the other week where I was talking about how Sea of Thieves updates are really hard to make everyone happy, I kind of delved into that a little bit, and I feel like my predictions about how I would take the current season to be pretty accurate. I don't think it's a bad season, but I don't see myself wanting to spend too much time playing it. But let's actually get into all the big things that have happened this season. Really, I think you could boil it down to three big things that were changed for Season 15 of Sea of Thieves, at least for the launch. To start off, I think we'll talk about the Emissary for the Hunters Call, and just the Hunters Call getting expanded in general, which I think is great. I like the feeling of being able to have something else to progress in the game, because really all I've had to progress is Athena's Fortune, a little bit of Reapers. I have a little bit of Reapers left to get to that level 100, and then Hunter's Call. Now I have, another 50 levels to expand to get new rewards and stuff. So that's a nice feeling to have. But then the question becomes, what do you do for this emissary now? So for this emissary, you can go on fishing and raid voyages. So this is the next big thing that they added for this season is fishing voyages. I'll briefly mention the raid voyages though, because if you've seen my video in the past about season 11, I actually really like the raid voyages. I do the Sea Fort raid voyages and the Sunken Treasury raid voyages all the time. And the thing I really like about those is that they're trading company specific. So if you do a raid voyage, the only treasure you'll get is for that company that you selected. So I really like that because I can go and do a Sea Fort and only get Hunter's Call treasure from it. Same with like Athena's Fortune and other stuff. So that all together I think is really great. The fishing voyages, when I heard that they were going to be the new voyage for the launch of Season 15, I was kind of underwhelmed in the sense that like I never really cared for fishing in the game in general. I don't think it's bad. I think it's actually a pretty interesting mechanic and it's better than other games how they've implemented fishing, where it's more just like you throw it in, you feel the control vibrate, and then you click a button and then it just reels it in automatically. With Sea of Thieves, you really have to fight to get that fish, which is a little bit more realistic, a little bit more fun and interesting. But in general, it just was not something that appealed to me. Part of that reason that it didn't appeal to me is, one, if you're doing it to just get food, it was way better to just get, go onto an island, slash a pig or something, take the pig and then cook it, rather than try to go fishing and then take that fish to cook. Because the fish weren't really giving you that much food value in terms of like how much they healed you and gave you that regen health. And then also, if you're just trying to sell the fish, they weren't really selling for that much in general anyway. So either way, it didn't really seem worth it. And I think these fishing voyages did fix some of the things I didn't like about the previous fishing in the game. So some of the things that I like about the fishing that they have now with these fishing voyages is that, one, you can just dive right to it. It's just like the raid voyages where you dive and it goes right to the island you're supposed to go to, which is pretty nice. And the benefit that the Hunter's Call has is that you can go sell these fish both to any sea post as well as any outpost, which basically means you can basically sell pretty quickly anywhere you are on the map, because there's at least a sea post or an outpost pretty close by to any island in the game. So that was really nice. It made it so that I could quickly dive, go to the island, fish up the fish that I needed to fish, and then go to a sea post or an outpost and sell quickly, and then dive again, go to the next island. I like that kind of method. Other people might want to stack their fish, so they might want to go between island to island and keep fishing. I just wanted to kind of dive and sell. I didn't really want to sail across the map trying to go to each of these different fishing spots. Another thing that I have mixed feelings on with these fishing voyages is that the fish that you pick up from these fishing voyages are not like the regular fish in the game. So you can't cook them, you can't eat them, they don't go in your food inventory, they're literally just treasure items. There is good parts and bad parts about that. The good part about that is I really like that you can just basically have this giant fish that you don't have to put into your food inventory, you don't have to clear a spot for it, you just get to put it down on your ship like the rest of your treasure. That's really nice. It means that I can actually fish a little bit more effectively. in the past, if you wanted to fish, you had to like clear out a food slot so that you could pick up the fish off the hook and everything. So that made it a little bit more of a barrier to want to fish. So this, I think, is a nice change. And another thing that they changed with these fishing voyages is that the fish that you sell from these are significantly more valuable. If I remember correctly, it was about 2,000 that I was getting on average for each fish that I sold, which is really good, especially when you combine that with the Hunters Call Emissary. So overall, I think that was great. And the smaller voyage really does not take that long. It's literally just going to one island, you pick up 3 fish, and then you're done. So I really like that. You could do the one that's a little bit longer where you go to 2 different islands. I didn't try that one, but overall, the point I'm trying to get at is I kind of went into those fishing voyages, just basically doing it because, I make content on Sea of Thieves. I wanted to make sure that I test out the season fully so that I could give an honest opinion about it and, at least give it a chance. And I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed it more than I was expecting. I don't think it's going to be something that I do often, though. It's more something that I was just expecting to be not as enjoyable, but found out to be a little bit more enjoyable than I was expecting. So I think they did a good job with these fishing voyages. There's not much else you could do with fishing. I do wish we got something else instead of fishing voyages, but I'll get to that more later on in the video. Let's talk about the final thing that we got, and this is really the big thing of the season, and it's 2 new Ancient Megalodons. This, I think, is interesting in a lot of ways. I think both of these Megalodons are pretty fun to encounter. If you're someone that's a little bit more experienced with the game, and if you're someone that plays solo like me, these are actually a pretty decent challenge. Especially the Barnacle Dread, because you kept having the ocean rollers that kept popping up on your ship, and those would be distracting, so I had to kind of figure out a method quickly to be able to repair the ship, take out these ocean crawlers, and have time to shoot the Megalodon. So that was the first Ancient Megalodon that I took on, the Barnacle Dread, and I was able to defeat it and everything, and was successful, but it did take a little bit of a learning curve to fight, which was fun, because usually a lot of the PvE enemies in the game don't put up too much of a challenge for someone that's been playing for a long time. So this felt like you really had to be on top of your game to fight, and I kind of liked having like the next evolution of the Megalodon and something that's a little bit harder to fight. The other Megalodon, the Feared Red Maw, which I thought was going to be worse than the Barnacle Dread, actually ended up being pretty easy to fight. I think I only had one time where it lit the ship on fire, but other than that, it was pretty easy to take down. It took it down pretty quickly. Maybe it's because I was already practiced with the Barnacle Dread. Maybe it was just an easier time. Who knows? But I found the Feared Red Maw to be a lot easier to fight than the Barnacle Dread. Both of these I like. I think they're pretty unique. I like the look of them, and I like the size of them. It makes them feel very intimidating in terms of just being basically the entire size of the ship, which is really cool to see kind of swimming around. However, there's some things that I find weird with these Ancient Megalodons. First is just how you actually unlock being able to do the Ancient Megalodons. So if you think about the main way you're supposed to do this, it's kind of a weird gameplay flow in the sense that you're supposed to get to grade 5 for the Hunters Call Emissary to be able to find these Ancient Megalodons. And that's fine, that makes sense. But since the only main Hunter's Call voyage that we have right now is fishing, you're going from like a very peaceful, non-combat situation with fishing to the main end goal for the fishing to become fighting Ancient Megalodons. I know it's all part of the Hunter's Call, but since these are like very different things, I don't really see the connection between, going on like this peaceful fishing voyage to fighting this like pretty high-skilled Megalodon. Obviously, you can do the raid voyages, and that's why I did. I did a mixture of fishing voyages and raid voyages for sea forts, and the sea forts definitely helped gain that emissary grade up a lot faster than the fishing voyages. So if you do raid voyages, it makes sense, but in terms of like if you just want to do strictly Hunter's Call stuff to get to the Ancient Megalodon, it's really just fishing. Obviously, we know later on in the season we're going to get hunting voyages. We saw them in the trailers and stuff, and I'm interested to see how those play along. Those might help a lot more in terms of, kind of making that progression to the Ancient Megalodon make a lot more sense to me. But right now, it just feels a little disjointed of a play experience. So with the Ancient Megalodons, there were some other things that I found a little bit odd with them. But there's also some things that I liked about it. So in terms of one of the things I found odd with it is I didn't like that the treasure was basically a mixture of all the different trading companies. So you had some stuff for like the Order of Souls, you had some stuff for the Gold Hoarders and all that stuff coming from the Megalodon. And I understand that for the regular megalodons that just kind of naturally occur while you're doing other stuff. But these ancient megalodons, you're really only going to fight them when you're a Hunter's Call grade 5. So you kind of just want it to be a Hunter's Call treasure. You don't want it to be all these other treasures. I felt like I wasn't really getting that much value from the Ancient Megalodons because it wasn't focused on the trading company that I was an emissary for. Now, I might be wrong. There might be other ways to find the Ancient Megalodons. Maybe you can find them in the world just naturally if you go to the certain spot where they are. But let's be honest, most people are going to be trying to do the Hunters Call Emissary, get into grade 5, and then that's how they're going to defeat it. So I think if it was just all Hunters Call treasure, that'd be a lot better than what we're getting now. I would also say, and I've seen a lot of people online complaining about this, the treasure values for everything except for the fish. I think the fish is actually perfect the way that it's valued. But all the other Hunter's Call treasure that you get, like the Hunter's Call chest that they have, or any of the treasure you get from the Ancient Megalodons, all of it just doesn't seem like it's really adding that much value to your reputation. The reputation gain is very slow. Over the course of the night when I was doing all these fishing voyages and the raid voyages and 2 different Ancient Megalodons, I could not even increase 1 level of the Hunter's Call for that, which was pretty disappointing. I would expect, after a whole night of doing that, to at least increase by 1 level, maybe at 1.5 levels. So I've seen a lot of people online complaining about the progression gain for the Hunter's Call treasure and just kind of leveling up in the Hunter's Call. So I hope that they address that in the future, and that's partially why I'm kind of taking a break from any of this Season 15 content, because I have a feeling they'll boost that up probably in a couple weeks, or maybe in the next month's update, and then it will be more valuable to do these activities. Now, one thing I do like about the implementation of the Emissary Grade 5 for the Hunter's Call with these Ancient Megalodons is that it's not just one Ancient Megalodon that you get to fight. You basically, once you get to Grade 5, you can keep fighting as many Ancient Megalodons as you want. So unlike some of the other emissaries that we have where you get like the Emissary Voyage, and it's kind of just that one voyage, and once you finish it, you're done, like with Athena's Fortune or the Gold Hoards and stuff. It's a lot more similar to, say, like the Reapers, where you get to see basically all the ships that are on the map, and you can just basically keep going as long as you have that grade 5 emissary up. So if you want to keep fighting Ancient Megalodons, what I did is just basically finish my Ancient Megalodon on the server that I was on, and then sell the stuff, and then just dive for a fishing voyage, look on the map in the new server that you're at, and then just sail to the next Megalodon. And that seemed to be a strategy that worked out pretty well for me. So I really like that aspect that you can just kind of keep going. It's not so much like a grind to this Ancient Megalodon and then you only get one of them. You basically just get to keep going as much as you want. The downside of that is, by the time you get to that grade 5 and you're fighting the Ancient Megalodon, you're kind of tired, you don't really want to keep going. So if you just wanted to hop in the game and fight one of these Ancient Megalodons, it's a little bit of a grind to get to it initially. But once you get to it, you can kind of keep fighting it for as long as you want. Now, I do think we got a decent amount of stuff with the season launch. However, I really don't think it's enough to keep my interest. I will do the Hunters Call Emissary and just do raid voyages for the Sea Fort and stuff, and that's fine. And I probably will do the Ancient Megalodons again once I get to grade 5 doing those raid voyages. But the fishing voyages, probably not going to be something that I'd go and do again unless I'm with a friend that really wants to do them. And honestly, the Ancient Megalodons, they seem more trouble than the value of the worth that they're giving. The only reason really that you would do the Ancient Megalodons is, one, because they are decently fun to do, and if you want to try to get some of those accommodations done. But otherwise, the treasure that you're getting doesn't really seem that great compared to how much treasure you could get from doing like a Sea Fort or other stuff in that same amount of time. I think the Hunter's Call really did deserve a season of its own, just to really expand everything that they have, because they've kind of been neglected for the last several years since they were introduced. So I am happy to see a season focused around the Hunter's Call. But I feel like they focused on making the wrong things. I get why they made the choices of making a fishing voyage and making 2 new Megalodons, because they already had those assets, so it's really just kind of retooling them to work in these contexts. But honestly, I feel like for a season launch, if you really wanted to get us engaged, we needed something different. So let's take the fishing voyages, for example. I think the fishing voyages are fine. I really don't think that probably took as long to make as people would think. The only thing that probably took a long time was making all the different new types of fish, because there is a new set of fish that are for this. Otherwise, it's basically the same mechanics. They already had the fishing mechanics with the bait and everything. They already had how the fishing rod works for years now. None of that stuff is new. Really, the only new part was, you go into the island, and then you have like 3 fish there that are these bigger fish. That probably didn't take as long to make as many people think. It would have been nice to have a different type of voyage similar to these fishing voyages, but maybe for something else that we haven't seen in the game. In the past, we talked about stuff like going crabbing, which would fit perfectly with Hunter's Call, where maybe you could go to a certain location on the map, and then you could have like these crates that you throw off the side of your ship, and you could see like the rope maybe like, you know, tugging or something, and then you had to pull it up from the side of your ship, and you had to try to catch crabs and stuff. That maybe still wouldn't be the biggest thing for me because I'm more of a combat focus. I like going to the seaforts and fighting phantoms and that kind of stuff. But I think that would have taken like the concept of fishing and taking it to the next level and having a new activity, a truly new activity. Because I really don't feel these fishing voyages, even though they're now in a voyage form, it doesn't feel new to me. It feels like just repackaging stuff we've already had. So they could have done like a crabbing voyage. They could have done a voyage where you're hunting something on the land, which it seems like the boars that we saw in the trailer, that's probably going to be going along towards that, which I'm looking forward to with it. But in terms of what we have right now in the game, in terms of this launch, the fishing voyage is a little bit disappointing. If it was combined with a different type of voyage and there was 2 voyages here, that would have been great. But right now, it's just not that impressive to me. The Megalodons, on the other hand, kind of the similar situation. They are just bigger megalodons with some added stuff to it. I think this was a little bit better than what they did with the fishing voyages. There's obviously more work that was put into it. I really like having the ocean crawlers spawn on the ship because I think that's a really cool thing and a really cool mechanic of them just like kind of appearing there. But otherwise, do we really need 2 new megalodons? Or would people have rather gotten something truly new with this game? Like we've talked in the past about what if we had like a giant crab monster that we fought, or a giant sea serpent, or really any new type of sea monster in the game. I'm not saying that the Ancient Megalodons are bad, I'm really happy that they're in the game, but is it exciting? I don't feel that excited about this update. I think it's going to be one of those updates where, it's nice that these things are in the game, but in terms of right now, I don't really have much an opinion. And honestly, one of the biggest problems for Sea of Thieves, at least for a player like me, is that literally the next day, on this past Friday, Fortnite released their next season, which was this giant season which brought tons of content in. It makes the amount of content that Sea of Thieves added with their season launch look very minuscule. So that's partly why I'm kind of looking at this update and not really having the biggest opinion on it, because I see Fortnite and with their season launch and just talking about BR, not talking about any of the other modes that they are supporting in that game, just in the main BR mode, this huge season came out with new weapons, with, obviously a bunch of new great cosmetics, which we could talk about the cosmetics for this season, because I think there's some stuff that are good, there's some stuff that is bad, but I'll let y'all go look at those videos I did the other day talking about it. I just think Fortnite really showed, like, what a season launch could be and how it could really change up the game. And really, with Season 15, I don't feel the same way. I'm not expecting Sea of Thieves to be at the same level as Fortnite. Obviously, Fortnite is a really big game, but they are both competing for our time and attention. If Sea of Thieves ends up being one of those games where you just kind of go back maybe once or twice a month, that's fine. But I would really like to see the game really compete on time in terms of making you actually want to spend more time in the game. Because I do remember a time years ago where I was always on Sea of Thieves. I was always having tons of fun on it. Just, doing all the tucking, PvP, even PvE stuff with the Siren Shrines and the Treasuries and the Sea Forts and the Tall Tales. All this stuff was great in the past. And I'm hoping that we start getting more towards updates like those in the past that really kept me engaged as a player. I think this game still has lots of potential, but we need to see new things in the game, not just repackaging old stuff like what we saw with the launch of Season 15. Now, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I do like the stuff that we got with Season 15. I just think they could have done a lot better, and I think they could have done more. What I will say, though, with Season 15 is I think the game, they've done a lot of improvements with server performance and just bug improvements and stuff, and the game feels a lot better to play. I wasn't having lots of lagginess in the game when I was playing the other day. It seemed like it was running well, and all that stuff felt good. So in terms of just getting the core game fixed and polished, I think they've done it. Now all they have to do is just keep that polish and keep it from not going bad in performance anymore. If they can keep doing that and then just build on top of that, I think we're in a great state and have a great year coming for Sea of Thieves. But those are my thoughts on Sea of Thieves Season 15. Let me know in the comments below, what do you like about this season? What do you wish we got for this season? And what are you most looking forward to in terms of what's already been announced for this season? Well, that's all I have for this video. If you enjoyed, it'd be great if you like and subscribed. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye, y'all.